Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 26 of B-Road Ballers, the review series for the hot hatches of Gran Turismo. And in this particular episode we're featuring another classic hot hatch, and this time it's a legendary machine of the rallying world, the Peugeot 205 T16 or Turbo 16, which is, like the Lancia Delta, the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo, the Audi Quattro, the Mercedes 190e, and various other vehicles, what they call a homologation special. A vehicle which is made in road-going form in order for the car to be allowed to race, because that used to be the way of motorsport in many ways. The Le Mans used to do that, rallying used to do that. You used to have to be able to make a road-going interpretation of the vehicle in order for it to be eligible to race. And I think that's one of the coolest things that's ever been a part of motorsport, because it gave us awesome road cars with ridiculous prices and amazing exclusivity and phenomenal performance, which we would probably not have otherwise had. We may have ended up with some kind of silly special edition of most vehicles with a fancy stripe and double the price tag, but due to those regulations, companies were forced to create monstrous vehicles. And this is the perfect example of that. The Peugeot 205 T16 is insane. You can kind of think of it as a cross between the modern day Renault Clio V6 and a Mitsubishi Evo. If you imagine those two cars being put together 20 years ago, that's pretty much the 205 T16. You have the mid-engine layout like the Clio and the Renault 5, but the all-wheel drive, which the Renault does not have, either the Renault 5 or the Clio, which gives it a unique edge. Now, the launch off the line with the T16 is incredible. It punches well above its weight in terms of launch and quarter-mile acceleration. The top speed is also not bad at all, over 210 miles per hour under its own power, which for a car which was never designed for top speed, that's pretty impressive. Now, the handling is a very important aspect, of course, of any car, but especially so in a rally-based machine. It needs to be able to get round corners efficiently, quickly, but in as controlled a manner as possible. Now, obviously, this was a Group B machine, and they were notorious for being a bit silly and a bit crazy to drive, but the 205, as far as on the game anyway, is actually one of the more docile homologation cars. It's very easy to use, very beginner friendly. The all-wheel drive is to thank primarily for that, because if you compare it to its main rival, the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo, which is of course rear-wheel drive, the Renault is a little bit more skittish and a little bit more unpredictable. The Peugeot, though, despite having more power to deal with and more performance than the Renault, is easier to drive because of the all-wheel drive. Now, the all-wheel drive and a variety of other factors do mean that this is actually a little bit heavier than you might expect a Peugeot 205 variant to be. It actually weighs 1,049 kilos, meaning that it is a lot heavier than the Renault 5 Maxi Turbo. However, it can put out 487 horsepower, which more than makes up for that, and that means that it puts out, for a hot hatch, a very respectable 464 horsepower per tonne. Now, as far as torque, being a 1.8 litre turbo engine and a rally car, not too surprising that it's got a pretty thumpy engine. 339 pound-feet of torque is pretty impressive for a 1985 Peugeot 205 based vehicle. Now, being a mid-engine car, not surprisingly, it's only a two-seater now, so the practicality does take a bit of a hit. But I don't think people will really knock this car for that. It's not designed to be practical, it's designed to be crazy. And it does that very, very well. And I would say possibly the best thing about this car overall is that it manages to be crazy in a very usable way. That all-wheel drive, as I said before, helps with that a lot. The performance is superb, but mainly for its spec. So this is one of those cars that doesn't need a ridiculous amount of power in order to get the job done. And you really feel that. You've got enough power to make it incredibly quick, but not so much that you're constantly fighting against it. Now, the car doesn't actually have any specific downsides as far as I'm concerned. The only potential niggle with the car is an understandable one, and that's the price. For a hot hatch, it's pretty expensive. It's a 78 grand car. That's quite a lot for a hot hatch, but given its historical importance, how successful it was in rallying, how successful it is as a road car, how awesome the concept of the vehicle is in general, and how much of a great collector's item that can actually win races this car is, I would say it is worth 76,000 credits. Or even 78, because that's the price. But overall, it's a fantastic hot hatch to go for if you're looking for a brilliant all-rounder. It makes a superb rally car, obviously. It makes a great road racer, superb drifter, fantastic short-distance drag car, and even a surprisingly good top speed racer. So, if you're looking for a very, very strong and capable all-round hot hatch, this is the car for you. So, that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.